Russ. Judith Elaine Smoker Beck passed away on August the 10th. Cremation has taken place with the Randall's Funeral Home in Walkerton. A celebration of life will be held Saturday, September the 25th from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. at the Polish Falcons in LaPorte. Arrangements for Judith Elaine Smoker Beck, again handled by the Randall's Funeral Home in Walkerton. That's been Vital Statistic.
Apple season is in full swing at Garwood U-Pick. Honeycrisp, McIntosh, Crimson Crisp, all are good picking now. In the Garwood Market.
The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Day, as is going to happen over the next couple months, we're going to bring you more candidates to talk to you about what they stand for and why you should maybe vote for them. We're bringing you the area's best election coverage on 96.7 The Eagle and HometownNewsNow.com. And on today's show, our LaPorte County Assessor candidates, Republican John Madwishin and Democrat Mike Schultz. If you have a question for today's candidates, please do not call. Our call line will be down, but you can text that line, 219-362-0522. You can also email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. So if you have a question for LaPorte County Assessor candidates, again, you can text 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. As well, if you ever miss an episode of Sound Off, you are welcome to find us on our website, hometownnewsnow.com, or subscribe to wherever podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, you'll find us there as well. So, welcome to the show. Good to have you guys. Welcome, John, Mike, welcome. We'll start with you, John. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, this is my second election I participate in. The first one was 2 years ago. I was a candidate for treasurer. This time around, it's a related office. The treasurer, auditor, and assessor work together as a team to try to do the revenue stream part of the county government. We don't get to spend anything. We don't decide where money goes, but we do the bookkeeping and try to organize things so it flows in. Educationally, I've got the engineering degree, Master of Science degree, and an MBA. Worked as a deputy trustee in Hudson Township. So I've got experience there with the Department of Local Government Finance, which is an organization which often is difficult to work with. And have recently joined up with some of the people working at St. Joe County assessors' offices so I can learn the differences between the way the government does various assessments and evaluations and the way a business environment would do an evaluation and assessment of a business.
Great. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Mike Schultz, you're the incumbent. Introduce yourself to our listeners and explain a little bit about your background.
Well, thanks, Dennis. Or not Dennis, you're Nate,
for
having us today.
All right, cut his mic. Yeah.
Dennis is in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been the assessor now for 12 years in LaPorte County, and I was the previous 4 years in Center Township. I have a level 2. Or I've been a level 2 since 1998. That's the minimum requirement you need. And I've been a level 3 for probably 16 years, which is the maximum that you really need. But I take about roughly 30 to 40 hours of King Ed classes a year by going through conferences and stuff. So, but I'm really proud of my staff. We've brought the assessor's office a long way. Yes, we are part of the financial team. It all begins in the assessor's office. If the assessments don't get out on time, nothing's going to get out on time. We experienced that about 12 years ago. And lucky for my staff and myself that we became educated and we brought us out of that, and we've remained on time every time since then.
Now, I don't mean to offend either of you, but let's be honest, a lot of times the council races and the commissioner races get a little more attention than the assessor races. But that doesn't mean that the assessor doesn't do important work and even vital work, and having an assessor that is doing their job efficiently and adequately is vitally important. So, Mike, I'll start with you on this one. What makes you uniquely qualified to be LaPorte County Assessor again, you know?
Well, I think it's because of my education. I do have the background. The minimum requirement you need to take office is a level 2. You have to have that by the time you take office.
And for our listeners a little bit, level 2, where does that come from?
It comes from the state. There's 2 tests administered. There's a level 1, which is basically residential, and then level 2 is your commercial, your income approach, and all the other approaches to assessing. So it's very important that you understand in Indiana, it's market value in use, which is different than highest and best use that most realtors use to and appraisers to look at a property. So ours is market value in use. That's why some you could have a home, but if you have a doctor's office in a home, it's going to be assessed as a doctor's office and not a home, even though it is a stick-built type property. So I think what makes me qualified in this, because I'm also active in the community. You have to know what's going on in La Crosse and Wanata and Westville, Rolling Prairie. You got to kind of keep your pulse on it, because I work closely with our economic development groups, LaPorte, the county, and Michigan City. I'm often called for what could be an assessment on this property, because the developer wants to know what maybe his tax liability could end up being. So I have an excellent staff that helps me with this. I have 5 level 3s on staff, which is the highest level you can get. When I first took over 12 years ago, I cut the assessment budget by over $500,000, and we've never needed that $500,000 that we've cut. So we've cut 3 staff members over 12 years through attrition, not fired or laid off. So we've really been frugal with the budget. The state's actually kind of amazed that we've been able to keep our reassessment fund down and still do what we do with it, because I don't have outside help when it comes to the real property. I do have a company that we do use for audits on personal property, but we've brought in over $500,000, if not more, and we've not paid that out to that company because they assess a flat fee.
And I'll ask you the same question, John. John Maturshin is the Republican candidate for LaPorte County Assessor, and him and Mike Schultz, the Democratic candidate, are in the studio today. We're talking to them about assessing, but also, they're talking to you about you're a voter and maybe you're looking to who you want to support for your assessor here. And so I'm going to ask you, John, what about your background makes you uniquely qualified to be the LaPorte County Assessor?
I guess the unique aspect is that I've been using computers since 1968, and I'm very comfortable with doing things that your average computer user doesn't even think about. For example, artificial intelligence is mentioned quite often in many venues, and I don't know about the LaPorte County Assessor's Office, but things like keeping track of new construction can be done quite easily by having the aerial photographs gone over by automation, by having a computer look. Where is new construction going on? Where have the fires taken place? Who's making a new use for an area? And that would not require a human intervention. And it could highlight for the human where is something changed. And that would be the unique aspect, is adding an understanding of all kinds of different uses of automation that can be brought into the office. It could also, for example, in my own personal experience, with my property card. I had two parcels, two tax ID numbers unified under one, so I would only get one bill sent to me. In the process, a lot which is 105, the combined lot is 105 by 100, was turned into 100 by 100 with a little bit of automation. They could have checked that, just like a spell checker checks spelling in the words. A piece of software could have checked, hey, these two parcels are not 100 by 100 together. They're a different number. And that's something that can be automated, eliminate some of the multiple needs to respond to a user. I was coming in and I took 3 or 4 visits to finally get that straightened out.
All right, great. Well, we've got LaPorte County Assessor candidates on the show today, John Matuition, and who's running as a Republican, and the incumbent Democrat, Mike Schultz. If you have a question, you're welcome to text me at 219-362-0522 or email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. We're going to take our first break. Again, if you want to text 219-362-0522. If you're streaming with us online, you can always put your comments there or just share that stream on your feed as well. We'd be happy to have more listeners as well. So thank you so much for listening. We're going to take our first break. We'll be right back here on 96.7 The Eagle.
For over 50 years, LaPorte has trusted Cannon's Automotive Service for prompt, efficient, same-day service. And that same Cannon's commitment extends to area businesses who rely on a fleet of one or many to take your goods or service to the customer. Whether it's the truck or trailer that needs maintained or fixed, trust Cannon's Automotive to maximize your productivity with same-day service. Now with 2 Cannon's locations, 710 Tyler Street and 909 Boyd Boulevard.
With Cannon's Automotive, we fix everything.
LaPorte County's favorite Ford dealer, Auto Park Ford, in LaPorte and serving all of LaPorte County. Hundreds of pre-owned vehicles, all makes, all models, all at low Auto Park pricing with 0 down and as low as 2.9% financing. 2.9%. If credit is a concern, we want to help you get approved today at Auto Park Ford. Plus, we service all makes, all models, whether you bought it at Auto Park or not. Make us your one-stop shop for all your service needs. From oil changes to engine repair, hundreds of pre-owned vehicles, all at low Auto Park pricing with 0 down and as low as 2.9% financing. It's not just a dealership, it's an auto park at Auto Park Ford in LaPorte and serving all of LaPorte County, LaPorte County's favorite Ford dealer. AutoParkFordLaPorte.com. AutoParkFordLaPorte.com. 22 Escape 35.4, 0 down, 566 a month, 66 months, 2.9% APR plus tax tag title to qualified buyers.
Frank L. Kazai Funeral Home, Essling Chapel, serving LaPorte and surrounding communities since 1958. Essling Chapel is a full-service funeral home, offering personal, distinctive, and affordable services. Essling Chapel promises to faithfully serve your family with compassion and honor. Frank L. Kazai Funeral Home, Essling Chapel, thanks you for your trust and friendship. Please visit our informative website at esslingfuneralhome.com.
Take the next step in your construction career by becoming a union carpenter.
Some of the best pay in the industry.
Amazing health and retirement benefits.
Ongoing cutting-edge training.
Creating my own career path so I can do what I love.
High safety standards.
Great employment opportunities. Why will you join the Carpenters Union? Join the 75,000 men and women in Indiana who build our communities. For more information, visit the Construction Industry Partnership at indianacip.com.
Let's look at the forecast at 96.7 The Eagle, brought to you by the Pink Sheep Children's Boutique.
The charming and affordable Pink Sheep Children's Boutique has so many fun themes and styles for boys, girls, and moms. Come see for yourself. The Pink Sheep Children's Boutique, 604 Lincoln Way in downtown LaPorte.
Michiana weather.
Partly cloudy skies this afternoon with a high of 83. Southerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Partly cloudy tonight, lows around 62. High of 85 tomorrow. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com. Right now, 77.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back, friends. Today's Sound Off, we are bringing you more election coverage. But before we get back to the show, I want to remind you that tonight here on 96.7 The Eagle and online as well, we will be bringing you the Slicers football game. They had their first win last week. Let's see if we can get another one this week. The Slicers traveled to Lake Central to take on the Indians. And the pregame with Chip Jones and Steve Mannering will start at 6:45 here on 96.7 The Eagle. If you're not around your radio at that time, you can always listen online on a computer or on a phone as well, and you can find the game there. And so let us support the Slicers together here. We've in the studio today have Mike Schultz and John Matrician, who are running for LaPorte County Assessor. And we're taking your questions at 219-362-0522. Please just text us. We're not doing phone calls today, just text and email. I do want to say, I think, Mike, you wanted to respond to that last comment by John.
Yeah, there were a couple things. John had mentioned this at our Farm Bureau candidates night as well, but he had mentioned he had an issue with combining of his property, and the dimensions were incorrect. Well, those are calculated in the auditor's office in the real estate through deeds, and then they're sent to us. So that's not something the assessor's office does, is calculate land. That's all calculated in the auditor's office. And on the other one of the computers and looking for changes and stuff, we do have the assessor's office actually is the administrator for the Beacon website. Mm-hmm. So we pay through that. We also have in there for internal, we have what we call Change Finder. After a flyover, we do flyovers every 2 years. We can turn the Change Finder on, and it will outline something that's not there anymore or something that is there that wasn't at the previous one. So we do have that capability now that we use. So we're pretty much up to date on the technology that we can. The state kind of frowns on assessors using drones. It might get a little too personal, so that's still being worked out as far as really being able to fly over the property, because we don't have access to the home or unless we're invited in. Most of our assessments are done from either aerial or from the outside of the house or business.
All right, we'll start with I think Mike, you're first one. Then we'll go to John on this one. So Mike, real quick, here's a question for you. Do you think the taxes are too high in LaPorte County?
Well, I don't know if they're too high. I guess the question is, are they being appropriated properly? Like I said, in my office, we've tried to keep the reassessment fund to a minimum. We've reduced our general fund expenditures. When you talk to people from outside the county that come in and buy property, they think the taxes are fairly fair. And I don't mean those that are located on Lake Michigan or on a lake or high-end property, but if they're coming from usually Ohio or Illinois, they think they're fair. The main thing on those is that, I'm an administrative office. I have to count on the county council to fund me. So I try to be as frugal as I can with the funds that I request, and very rarely do I request something that I don't need. And plus, I have a fund that is administered with the sales disclosure. Every sale in LaPorte County, the assessor's office gets $5 in a fund. I try to buy most of my items that I need, computers, any type of capital expenditure. I try to use that fund instead of the taxpayer-generated general fund or reassessment fund.
All right, John, I'm going to give you that same question. Do you think the taxes are too high in LaPorte County?
It's hard to make that determination without looking at what services are being provided for the funds. Mm-hmm. When someone is asked about the funding level of school systems, for example, the response from someone that works at the school system is, we need more. Universally, and it's very difficult to get the discussion to turn to. We're trying to teach algebra, and we need this amount of money for the faculty and for supplies to teach algebra. It's always, we just need more. Now, is it too high? It's lower than other areas I've been in. I'll have to acknowledge that right off the bat. There are changes that go underway. For example, in Hudson Township, our fire assessment has gone from $85,000 to currently $600,000. That gets people's notices, and
it's a fairly substantial increase.
There's going to be some explanation that will need to take place, and most people don't realize that has happened until the bill comes in. There are township board meetings that take place, but the notices don't get out. very low participation. Usually the 3 board members and the trustee outnumber the audience in the room. And very often it's a total surprise when something like that happens. For our residents that live outside the area that have a second home, it sounds like a very low number. My brother in Chicago pays, I think, close to $15,000 a year in taxes for a townhome. Here, that would be maybe 10% of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start again with you, John, on this question. This was sent to us. Again, if you have a question for our assessor candidates, we've got John Matuszyn, the Republican running, and the Democratic incumbent Mike Schultz on the show today. If you have a question, you're welcome to text us at 219-362-0522. You can also email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. So glad to have you listening today with us on today's show. John, I'll start with you. You get the first question on this one. This was texted to us. What are the biggest differences between county assessments and Zillow/real estate assessments, and are those differences fair?
I don't know how Zillow comes up with their numbers. When I look at properties that pop up for sale, often there's a vast discrepancy between what Zillow came up as a valuation of a property and what the actual selling price is. Typically, the ones that I've noticed, it's like 20% of what Zillow came up for the figure. I think that they're looking at other markets and don't adjust for local conditions. I'm just guessing. Zillow had to get out of the flipping market. They had been because they had all this information. They were acquiring parcels, doing some lipsticking and some minor repairs and putting it back on the market, and they were losing money. I think the number was $3,000 per house for every house that they handled. So they ended up bundling up their rehab program and selling it to a firm that specializes in doing that kind of stuff. So they had to get out of it. So something is in their evaluation is not quite adequate, even to their own standards.
Yeah.
And how they arrange it, I don't know. It's secret sauce for Zillow.
All right. Mike, I'll let you respond to that as well.
Well, I'm not a fan of Zillow when it comes to them trying to look at local real estate markets. I'm an associate member of the LaPorte County Realtors Association, so I work closely with the realtors here, and I don't think they're a fan either. I did ask the question at one meeting as to how many here have sold a home for less than my assessment. Not one hand went up. We try to keep our assessments low, but yet under the state guidelines, we can be 10% each way. So we do. It could be 20% different from Zillow than what we have. But since ours is really for a taxation generation, we had people ask, are taxes too high? Well, we try to stay on the lower end of the assessments, the real estate market. And so you probably won't find a home that sells for less than what my assessment is. But we do pass our ratio study every year. We do look at, there's a lot of sales out there that aren't, we don't call them valid. They sold on the market, but it sold to a husband or a wife, or it transferred, and it might have been ultra low or ultra high. We get to throw those out. We don't have to use them in the ratio study. So, but yeah, I'm not a fan of Zillow. I think you need boots on the ground. The best way to figure out what the market is to work with the local realtors.
All right, this question is, we'll start with you, Mike, on this one. So we are in certainly a market where home values are increased drastically over the last couple of years. I know home sales are, selling quite a bit more. Again, on that Zillow, if we go by the value of my home on Zillow, I think I should sell it tomorrow. But as the assessed values then go up because the values of homes go up, what happens in a few years or next year or 2 years when home values go down again? Is there a constant reassessment so that people aren't just paying more when the market goes up and the values don't then go down when the market goes down?
Yes, we have a constant. We're in Indiana, the way it's set up is we're always 1 year behind the market. So when we do next year's assessment, we're going to use this year's sales. So and we've had that quite a bit when someone comes in to appeal. Well, will you lower it then when the market drops? Well, luckily, my philosophy is we love to chase the market. I never want to get in front of the market. So when it starts coming back down, my assessments are still below that. But if it comes to the point where the market comes down to match my assessment, then we can go ahead and start lowering those somewhat then again. But like I said, we're below the market now, and I look for the market to start not tanking, but I think it's going to kind of moderate here. So we will make those adjustments because we have to every year. We do a ratio study every year with the one-year-old sales, and our ratio study was approved for next year. That was the green sheet that you get from me. It's like an invitation every morning or every year to come see me. So that's what that is. But it's the sales the previous year. So if the market starts dropping, say next year, it's going to take a year after that for us to make some of those adjustments. But like I said, we love to chase the market. I don't want to get ahead of the market.
John, any comment to that?
Yes, there is a bit of stickiness in the tax collection process. It goes in both directions. Mm-hmm. And for example, when COVID lockdowns came into effect, that became a big problem for University Park Mall because their assessments were based on the traffic to the stores that were under normal conditions, which suddenly became zero for many of them. And there was a offer of a reassessment from the assessor's office. It actually went to a court where a judge cut the number down even lower based on what the actual numbers were coming in. Instead of having thousands of dollars per square foot of sales a year, they were down to tens of dollars a square foot. Mm-hmm. And the auditor, the assessor did the best they could using the standards because they have limitations in what can be done. The state government comes in and says, if you have to stay within these guidelines. That wasn't good enough for this particular type of transition. Yeah. And a judge stepped in and looked at the situation and did a reevaluation. And I don't think that either party was satisfied with it because that's often a matter of rough justice. Yeah. A decision has to be made, and the judge.
Real quick, Mike, yep.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that, and I think part of the problem over there is that township that was, because they have larger townships in Lake County than we do, so they have, I believe, 5 elected township assessors. They used a firm to help fight that, and I don't mean a law firm, it was an assessing firm. I would have probably chosen not to hire that assessing firm. I'd have probably taken it in-house with a consultant to where I had more control over that because they owe so many millions of dollars back now. They're looking at bonding to these cash bonds to pay this stuff back. And that's why I like to keep everything local in where you're more in control. And again, that's why we have the appeal process, so we can, because I've met with the Blue Chip, I've met with NIPSCO, we've always worked out some type of deal, and they've been good paying customers from the standpoint that I can I'll say, how about instead of a refund, you take credits for the next 5 years? And they've always agreed. They've been good to work with.
All right. John's got a response to that, but I'm going to hold you off real quick, John, because we do have commercials we got to get to, and then we'll get right back to you as soon as we get back, okay? We've got our assessor candidates in here today for LaPorte County assessors, John Metupushkin and Mike Schultz. If you have a question, you could text me at 219-362-0522. We'll get right back to John right here after this commercial break on 96.7 The Eagle.
Ben Conowitz here, owner of LaPorte Seamless Gutter. My parents started LaPorte Seamless Gutter in 1982 with one goal in mind, really. Our customers' 100% satisfaction. And we are still providing the same customer service that Tim and Seal Conowitz started all those years ago. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 219-362-9972, or you can visit us on the web, www.lpseamless.com. 219-362-9972.
Vote Fagan 2022. Who is Sean Fagan? He's a lawyer. He's a Republican. Sean Fagan, running for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Sean Fagan knows that LaPorte County is a great place to live, and he wants to keep it that way. Sean Fagan for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Be safe. Be strong. Let's work together. Vote Sean Fagan 2022. This message paid for by Fagan for Prosecutor.
Hey, LaPorte County, Surf's fiber internet is more reliable and 25 times faster than cable. Get Get 1 gig speed and 2 free Eero whole home Wi-Fi routers for only $65 a month. No contracts and free installation at a price that's locked for life. That's right. The price you pay today won't jump up each year like cable. They are expanding to more neighborhoods every day. Visit surfinternet.com to check your address or call 844-955-SURF for details. That's 844-955-SURF. This is a limited time offer and restrictions may apply.
Join 96.7 The Eagle every Sunday morning from 9 to 9:30 a.m. for Bethany Church's Sound Up. Enlighten your Sunday morning with inspirational words of faith from Pastor Dennis Meyer. Bethany Church's Sound Up every Sunday morning from 9 to 9:30 a.m. on 96.7 The Eagle.
When it comes to school delays and closings, you can always count on 96.7 The Eagle for fast, dependable, and accurate updates. Whether it's on the air, online, or social media, we keep you up to date whenever there is a closing or delay of the area schools. Closings and delays are brought to you by these fine sponsors.
Melt Kitchen, LaPorte Community Federal Credit Union, Frank L. Kazai Funeral Home, Esling Chapel, Surf Internet, Swanson Center, Allstate Prendergast Agency, and Castle Ford of Michigan City.
So for the latest in closings and delays, turn on your source for news, weather, and local information, 96.7 The Eagle.
Every 6 minutes, a utility line is damaged by reckless digging. So Indiana relies on 811 superheroes like Steve the plumber.
I contact 811 before I do my work.
Mary the gardener.
Before I plant a tree, I contact 811.
And Mike the landscaper.
I dig for a living, but always contact 811.
Prevent damages or injury. Call 811 or go online, indiana811.org.
Sponsored by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, this station, and the Indiana Broadcast.
LaPorte High School Slicer varsity football is on 96.7 The Eagle. Tonight, the Slicers travel to Lake Central to take on the Indians. Slicer football proudly brought to you by Auto Body Specialties, MC Doors, O'Brien's Battery and Tire, All Star Autos, Cubit Networks, Raymond & Spence Insurance, Surf Internet, Back to Health Chiropractic, LaPorte Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Rosie Michaels of Coldwell Banker First Choice, and by Marsh Insurance Agency. Join Chip Jones and Steve Mattern beginning at 6:45 tonight for Slicer football action on your radio home for Slicer Sports, 96.7 The Eagle.
Thank you for tuning in to Sound Off. You can now text or email your questions directly to the studio. Call or text 362-0522 or email your questions to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is Sound Off.
Welcome back, friends, to our final segment of Sound Off today. We've got the LaPorte County Assessor candidates on the show. Again, we don't have our phone line. You can't call, but you can text 219-362-0522. And I tell you what, all of the texts that we've received that we will not have a chance to answer online, I do give to the candidates, and they can answer it on their own, either on their website or on their Facebook page, whatever they want. They can do with the questions with what they want, but I will give them to them so that they can answer them in their own time as well. So we've got John Matuszyn, who's the Republican candidate for assessor, and Mike Schultz, the Democrat. John, I know you wanted to respond to something Mike said before the commercial break.
There was a issue that I brought up about the reassessments being delayed, and mentioned University Park in St. Joseph County and the situation there that required a court to straighten out. And part of Mike's response was referring to Lake County, which I have no idea what went on in Lake County. Probably a similar situation, but my knowledge is strictly limited to University Park and St. Joe County.
All right, John, here's a question specifically for you. You had mentioned that you worked, I think, as the deputy trustee. So were you part of the reason the fire department fund is so high in Hudson, since you were chief deputy trustee during that time?
We fought it as best we could and tried to organize a citizens group to do a volunteer fire department. It takes time, it takes effort to get that together. A lot of our people don't work in Hudson Township. They leave the area, so that the population that we have available are excluded. For example, I could not be a volunteer firefighter. There's an age limit. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm able-bodied, in my mind, I'm 27, so I can do pretty much everything that would be required. The regulations say no. And part of the increase is due to our being included in a fire territory based in St. Joseph County in New Carlisle. And their focus is on the industrial complex. So even though in Hudson there have been 4 fires in the last 8 years, in each case it was a total loss. We still are stuck because our current trustee is I believe, a president of the firefighters local, and he likes to have things done the way the firefighter membership would like to see. And that means heavier salaries, more full-time people rather than volunteer. My approach would be, okay, well, let's take a piece of that money and just rebuild every structure that burns. Our structures are typically $100,000, $150,000. We could rebuild everything that burned to the ground, not replace the contents, just the structure, and come out ahead. Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Just save the people, let the property go.
All right. Mike, here's a question for you. So if a doctor's office in a home is taxed as doctor's office, would that be the same for others doing business in their homes, constructions, trustees, online stores, these kind of things that have businesses in their home, but they're not being taxed as businesses?
No, because we don't assess in-home businesses, the Avon lady, the Tupperware lady. No, those are in-home. That doesn't affect the marketability of your house or your property. So no, we don't. A lot of people still have a little beauty shop in their home. No, we don't. Because it doesn't affect the marketability of that house. So it would have to be fully used, or say at least 75% used for a doctor's office. He may have a bedroom there. Well, that doesn't constitute you being residential. So.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, and I'm going to give you guys your final words here for all of our listeners. We've had our LaPorte County Assessor candidates on today's show, and again, I will send them, I will get all your questions that they didn't answer. I will give them to them so that they can put them out. And I know our candidates last episode, the sheriff candidates, did do that. I know Andy Heinick did anyway. I think Ron Hagigo is going to do that as well. So I'll give them to them, and they can answer them on their own time. But I'll start with you, John. What's your final word? What do you want our listeners to know?
And I would bring some fresh vision to the operations of the county government. There is a bit of friction between the current auditor and the trustee and assessor, and don't know why or what, but there were problems with both areas, working with the auditor and also with the commissioners. So I would bring in some fresh blood and not have the baggage of the history of friction. I bring in the ability to work with complex issues. Large numbers of parcels are not a problem. That's standard fare with computer systems. Typically nowadays, if you talk about having 100 CPUs engaged, 1 million CPUs engaged in a problem, you don't really raise any eyebrows. That's standard fare. Complicated systems, you need to learn new stuff every month. New software systems come in on a continual stream. And I would bring that type of dedication to working in the assessor's office.
Great. Mike?
Well, thank you, Nate, for having us today. I just like to say I don't think there's the friction between the assessor and the auditor's office. In fact, my work goes up to Tim, so he doesn't really affect me as much as I affect him. I was the only office that offered Tim employees twice to help him when he had these messes, to help follow our work and get it cleaned up. But I think what the public is looking for now is experience, because I think with the issues we're having now in the financial world in the county, that they're looking for some stability. I bring that stability because I try not to get into the fray, the arguments. I feel like I get along. Tim and I speak. Do we have coffee together? No, but we do talk. We know what the problem can be if he fails, because I've been there 12 years ago when we had to dig out of this hole, and it took us 4 years to do that, and I do not wish to go back to that. So we get along fine. I get along fine with the treasurer. I get along with the commissioners. I get along with the council. The name of the game is, it's not a political office. It's an office that is administered through the state guidelines. So I like to think that with the training that my staff has, that I have, we can continue the stability in LaPorte County, continue with the good taxpayer response we give when there's an issue of something overassessed, underassessed, or they don't understand something. They're very nice to us. We're nice to them. We know county government as a whole in my office. So again, I think I bring that experience and that stability that LaPorte County is looking for.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being on the show. It's been an absolute joy to get to know you both more, and I wish you all the luck in the future. Again, if you miss a portion of this episode, or if you want to share it, you're welcome to go on to hometownnewsnow.com, or just find our podcast, the Sound Off Podcast, wherever podcasts are found. I want to remind you tonight we will be carrying the LaPorte Slicers against Lake Central game. That is an away game starting at 6:45 here on 96.7 The Eagle. On Monday's show, we'll have County Council District 1 candidates. That's Justin Keel and Mike Kellums on the show. I'm sure that's going to be a great show as well. So I want to thank you so much for listening. Again, the election is coming up. It's on you to learn about your candidates, to find